Okay, so let's really get into this. Imagine a place like Thiruvathukkal in Kottayam. Just a normal Tuesday morning, quiet, peaceful almost.
Yeah, the kind of everyday scene you wouldn't think twice about.
Exactly. And then, just like that, the whole picture shatters. Something truly awful happens.
It's that contrast that's so jarring, isn't it? The ordinary backdrop for extraordinary violence. It really, it makes you think about how fragile that peace can be.
It really does. Because we're talking about April 21st, 2025, the day Vijaya Kumar, a pretty well-known local businessman, and his wife Meera were found murdered.
And not just anywhere, but in their own home, the place they should feel safest.
That violation of sanctuary, yeah. It sends a different kind of chill down your spine.
Absolutely. It's more than just a crime statistic. It hits a nerve.
And the first details that came out were, well, they were disturbing. Gruesome scene, bodies in different rooms.
And crucially, the CCTV hard disk was gone, missing.
Right. Plus, almost immediately, focus turns to a former employee, someone who apparently had issues with Vijaya Kumar, now in custody.
That missing CCTV, though, it's not just lost evidence, is it? It feels like a deliberate removal. Someone knew what they were doing, knew the setup.
It suggests planning, doesn't it? Or at least awareness.
Definitely. Raises a lot of questions about the perpetrator right from the start.
So this isn't just another headline. We need to really unpack this, look at the facts, separate them from, the speculation that inevitably starts swirling.
Our aim here is really to piece together what we know, understand the weight of each detail, especially the missing ones, and see what picture emerges, not to jump to conclusions.
Okay, so let's start with the discovery itself. It's around 8:45 a.m. that Tuesday, April 21st. The domestic help arrives for work at their house in Thiruvathukkal
Just a routine arrival, probably done it hundreds of times.
and finds this unimaginable scene.
You can't even fathom the shock, the horror of walking into that, finding them like that.
Reports say they were found in separate rooms, the bedroom and the hall, I think.
Yes, that's right. Which immediately makes you wonder about the sequence of events. Were they attacked together, separately? Did one try to flee?
And the scene itself was described as brutal, significant bloodshed.
Indicating a very violent end for both of them.
The weapon mentioned most prominently is a billhook, which is, well, it's like a heavy-duty cutting tool, right? Curved blade.
Exactly. Often used for farming or clearing brush. Not your typical household item, particularly in a town setting.
And reports also mentioned other weapons, but they weren't specified, just other weapons.
The billhook itself is interesting. Its presence could hint at the killer's background, maybe? Or perhaps it was just opportunistic, something found on the property? We don't know yet.
The injuries were severe. One detail mentioned was a fatal blow to Vijaya Kumar's head. It speaks to a real ferocity.
A level of violence that seems personal. Overkill, perhaps?
And then there's this deeply unsettling detail. The couple was found unclothed.
Which is extremely unusual. And disturbing.
Authorities haven't explained why. And I mean, you can imagine the kind of speculation that fuels none of it good.
It adds another layer of mystery and, frankly, horror. Could it be related to motive, humiliation, forensics? The silence around it is deafening.
And always looming is that missing CCTV hard disk. The eyes of the house basically ripped out.
It's such a critical piece. Its absence shouts premeditation, or at least a very calculated effort to cover tracks after the fact. Suggests the killer knew exactly what to look for.
So who were Vijaya Kumar and Meera? Let's paint a picture. He was quite prominent in Kottayam.
Owned the Indraprastham Auditorium in Thiruvathukkal. Right?
Yeah, apparently a real local landmark. Weddings, concerts, community events. If you're from Kottayam, you'd know it.
So a public figure in that sense, someone with visibility, connections, and potentially maybe enemies.
It seems he had other businesses too.
Yeah.
So a man of some means, certainly involved in the local economy.
And his wife, Meera.
Mentioned mainly as his life partner. Seems she kept a lower profile, less public-facing than him.
Which is often the case, but her death is just as tragic, obviously, part of this horrific event.
They lived alone, apparently. Children grown and moved out, reports suggest.
Right, so maybe expecting a quieter phase of life, which makes this intrusion even more brutal.
And living alone also means no other witnesses in the house, no one to potentially intervene or discover them sooner.
That definitely impacts the timeline investigators have to work with.
Okay, let's go back to the crime scene analysis. Blood found in multiple rooms, bedroom, hall.
Suggesting movement, maybe a struggle, not a single static event. Forensics can learn a lot from blood spatter patterns, location.
And the weapons, the billhook, the mysterious other weapons, were recovered at the scene.
Left behind, which could mean panic, haste, Or maybe they belong there, though a billhook seems less likely to just be inside the main house.
But here's a key point the police emphasized early on. No signs of forced entry. No broken doors, no smashed windows.
That's huge. It immediately shifts the focus.
Right, and apparently no signs of robbery either. Nothing seemed to be stolen.
So, not a burglary gone wrong. It points towards something different. Someone they knew. Someone let in. Or someone who had a key.
Which aligns with the police's initial assessment. Personal enmity as the likely motive. A broad term that points away from random violence.
It suggests a specific target, a specific reason, however warped. But what kind of enmity leads to this level of violence against two people?
That's the million-dollar question, isn't it? And it keeps circling back to the missing CCTV and the lack of forced entry taken together.
It really paints a picture of someone who knew the victims, knew the house, knew the security, or at least had some inside knowledge. It feels targeted, calculated.
Okay, let's talk about the prime suspect, this migrant worker.
Who used to work for Vijaya Kumar. That's the crucial link.
He was fired, what, a few months before the murders?
Yes, that's the timeline reported. And the reasons given were alleged phone theft and general behavioral issues.
So not an amicable split. There were accusations involved.
Which certainly could breed resentment. It provides a potential motive, clear as day, for investigators to explore. Makes sense why he'd be the initial focus.
And local reports mention bad blood after the firing. Lingering anger, perhaps?
Again, it fits a narrative. But, and this is crucial.
Absolutely. It has to be stressed. No charges have been filed. He's a suspect, in custody, being questioned. That's not the same as being guilty.
The investigation is ongoing. Being a suspect means police believe there's enough reason to investigate further, not that they've proven anything yet.
There's also sometimes a difficult social context around the term migrant worker in these situations. It's vital that guilt is based purely on evidence, not origin or status.
Exactly. Bias has no place in this. It's about facts and evidence connecting an individual to the crime.
So where does the investigation stand now? Kottayam District Police Chief Shahul Hamid is leading it.
And he's promised a thorough investigation exploring all angles. Standard procedure for something this serious, but important reassurance for the public.
They're doing the meticulous work, forensics, interviews, trying to piece together the sequence of events.
But that missing CCTV footage remains a major hurdle. It forces them to rely more heavily on other types of evidence, circumstantial, witness statements, if any, forensics from the scene itself.
And they're digging into the victims' lives too, right? Vijaya Kumar's business dealings, personal life, looking for other potential motives.
Makes sense. Someone successful, involved in multiple businesses. There's always a possibility of disputes, rivalries, sour deals that aren't immediately obvious. Financial motives are often explored.
They have to consider everything. Could someone else have held a grudge?
Precisely. They need to rule out other possibilities, even while focusing on the prime suspect.
And the weapons, again. That billhook. It feels like a weapon of opportunity, or maybe something brought with intent, but it's not subtle. The other weapons still remain a question mark.
The specifics might reveal more about the attacker's state of mind, the level of violence intended. Did they come prepared? Or did things escalate using items found there?
The impact on the community in Thiruvathukkal has been huge, as you'd expect. Shock, fear.
Absolutely. A double murder in a quiet town shakes everyone's sense of security. It feels close to home, even if you didn't know the victims personally.
And Vijay Kumar was known, described by some as helpful, a good man. Though, of course, public perception doesn't always capture the whole story of someone's life.
It rarely does. People are complex. Tragedies like this sometimes bring hidden conflicts or less public aspects of a person's life to the surface during the investigation.
And social media. Predictably, it's buzzing. Hashtags like hashtag Kottayam double murder, hashtag Thiruvathukkal tragedy.
Everyone becomes an armchair detective. Theories fly around, professional hit, crime of passion, sometimes wild speculation.
Yeah, I saw reports mentioning comparisons to Netflix shows, even Gotham City. It shows how much it's captured public attention, even if in a kind of morbid way.
It's a modern phenomenon. People trying to process the horror, maybe distance themselves slightly by framing it like fiction. But it's tragically real for those involved.
A local minister, V.N. Vasavan, also commented, called the murders gruesome, urged a thorough investigation.
Standard official response, but it acknowledges the severity and the public attention on the case. Puts pressure on the police, too.
So the current situation is tense. Kottayam is waiting. The police are under pressure to find answers.
And these things take time. Forensic results, witness corroboration, building a solid case. It's methodical work. Rushing leads to mistakes.
Yeah, you can't rush justice. But the community wants closure, wants to understand.
Understandably so. They need to feel safe again.
So to recap where we are, Sesset in custody, but no charges. CCTV footage, vital evidence still missing. Motive, officially unknown, though personal enmity is the leading theory.
Those are the key elements investigators are working with and against in the case of the missing footage.
This whole thing has left a deep scar on Thiruvathukkal. The memory of Vijaya Kumar and Meera and how they died. That won't fade quickly.
No, events like this linger. They become part of the town's history, sadly. A reminder of a terrible loss.
We're left with these really unsettling elements, aren't we? The sheer brutality. That missing CCTV, such a deliberate act. The questions about the motive, the unclothed state.
It's a confluence of disturbing details that makes this case particularly chilling. The violence combined with apparent calculation.
And thinking about it, the lack of forced entry, the missing CCTV, what does that really imply about the killer's connection to the victims or the home? It almost has to be someone familiar, right?
It points very strongly in that direction. Either someone they knew and trusted enough to let in, or someone who knew the routine, knew where the recorder was hidden, maybe even had access. It significantly narrows the possibilities, psychologically speaking.
Or, looking at it another way, given Vijaya Kumar's business profile, could there be secrets, deals gone wrong, enemies made who operated, below the radar, things that could explode into this kind of violence?
That's the other avenue investigators absolutely have to explore. Prominence and wealth can sometimes attract dangerous elements or create hidden conflicts. Uncovering those requires digging deep into his professional and financial life.
It's clear this story's far from over. The search for truth, for justice, continues.
And it's a sobering reminder, isn't it, that terrible things can happen anywhere, even in places that feel safe and familiar. The potential for darkness exists even behind seemingly ordinary doors.
A truly disturbing thought to end on. We'll have to keep following this as the investigation progresses.